Welcome, everybody, to It Tastes Different Game Reviews. What we're reviewing today? Wild Hearts. Wild Hearts is a action role-playing game developed by Omega Force and published by EA under the EA Originals label. The game takes players on a hunt. Giant monsters in a fantasy world, some weird Japanese feudal thing going on, and it's more than I was expecting and better than I was expecting. But I don't want to jump in too soon because I want to let Pat jump in because I think this has got Pat all over him because he was the first one to complain. So, Pat, what is your take on Wild Hearts? Does it make yours flutter?
The game is okay, and I will say okay in a sense that I don't want to give away too much already, but I'm going to say this is Fortnite meets Monster Hunter. Is what this game is to me, without the PvP. The game's tutorial system is kind of busted in my opinion, because there's times where when you're playing the game, it doesn't really give you what you need to do next. You're just like, okay, I'm going to go hunt this. And then you're like, okay, how do I go to the next thing? And how do I go to the next thing and the next thing? And eventually you will get the rhythm down. It just takes time. And it's in the same vein as Monster Hunter. You're gearing up, you're killing monsters to get materials, to gear up, to fight bigger monsters. And sometimes you got to fight monsters multiple times to get you'll be able to craft the gear that you need to fight the next monster, and so on and so forth. And I will say that if you are trying to play this game solo, if you like Monster Hunter games solo, then you'll like it. But if you're not a fan of Monster Hunter games, then you're not going to like this solo, because it's the same thing with just some building mechanics to it. And I'll let some of these guys get into building mechanics. But like I said, it's Fortnite meets Monster Hunter. But it's okay. It's a good little co-op game for me. I don't typically play this game outside of with Nick and Shane. I don't play it outside of those guys. I will run around and craft and stuff like that without them. But for the most part, the monsters just take a long time. And that's true Monster Hunter style. There's nothing different in that aspect, right? That's how Monster Hunter did it. That's how this does it. Tracking is similar, where you have to build towers to track things and find new monsters on the different islands and maps and stuff. But it's pretty much the same thing. Get a hunt quest, go out and kill the monsters, find out what loot you got, go back and see what armor you can craft. And you're basically making through the story, but you have to sometimes double up on killing monsters, or triple, or sometimes quadruple kill the monster so you can build a set of armor that helps you with resist for the monster that you're coming up against, or build a weapon that goes against that monster's weakness. So in that sense, it's the Monster Hunter theme. And like I said, there's building, so there's your Fortnite. But that's just me, I mean, these kind of games are good for co-op for me, but not single player. I'm not a huge single player Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter Rise. I like to play with my friends in that game. I typically wait to do that with them. And Nick and I put a lot of time into Monster Hunter when it came out on the Switch. Well, I've only got to play a little bit of the new version on the Xbox. There's a version they put out on the Xbox, but this kind of feels the same to me. Weapons are a little bit different, but I mean, in Monster Hunter, I ran with the hammer, and this one I ran with the hammer for a while, and I decided to swap over to bows and stuff like that. So it's kind of similar weaponry and similar stuff. So, but Nick, what do you think of this game, man? You're way bigger into Monster Hunter World than I think Shane and I both are.
Yeah, I like this game. I find it a lot of fun. But Pat's right. If you play, I play a lot of Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise, which is the Switch port that just came to Xbox. I play it a lot solo. So, and then when these guys want to play, I'll hop on and we'll play it together. And for me, both ways are fun, and I enjoy playing it both ways. But there's two different types of people when it comes to Monster Hunter type games, and those that like to play solo and those that don't, right? So, if you like playing Monster Hunter solo, then you'll enjoy this game solo as well. If you're more of in kind of Pat's case, where he'd rather play it co-op, which it's a lot of fun co-op, then that's probably when you'll pick up and play it. It's a nice co-op game to play with your friends and have a good time. It is better in co-op, like most games are better in co-op. I like, even though I like playing Monster Hunter solo, I like it better when we all play together. I think it's more fun that way. And this game's the same way. I think it's more fun in co-op. It's just more fun to go out there and kill big monsters with your friends than it is by yourself. It's a little lonely by yourself. But I do enjoy playing it by myself. And the same thing with, I've played a ton of Monster Hunter Rise by myself, and a lot of the Monster Hunter world I know me and Pat played together, but I also did solo a lot, killing monsters, trying to get some materials and stuff, and doing the same thing here. But yeah, it is Fortnite with Monster Hunter. It's the Monster Hunter formula. So if you're used to the Monster Hunter formula, then you'll know what this game gives you as far as that goes. They do change some things around. They do add some things that I think I wish Monster Hunter had. And they do have some things that I wish this game has that Monster Hunter does have that this game doesn't have. So it's kind of a trade-off here and there. I think the building aspect of the game, even though it is kind of Fortnite-y, I think that's probably the most fun about this game is the building, because you're building things outside in the world to utilize to battle against monsters. It's not just the weapon you're taking in. You can build walls for monsters to crash into. You can build flame torches to ignite your sword or your weapon. You can build springs to spring off of and do attacks. And as you progress in the story, you unlock more and more crafting options to utilize in combat, as well as you can use these crafting options to build bases, which build fast travel points around the map, which is really cool. It makes, and this is one thing that I feel like Monster Hunter could utilize, some sort of crafting or some sort of like camp building mechanic, right? Because in Monster Hunter, you can find camps and you find materials for them to unlock, but there are just certain sections within the Monster Hunter map where you basically find this is a suitable place for a camp, right? And then you give some materials to a guy, and then all of a sudden, next time you go there, there's a camp there. In this one, you build the camp. You build the camp. You can put a forge in there. You can put things in there. There's also like decorative stuff that you can put in your camp, and that's really cool. Like, I like that aspect. I like that I can build little encampments around the map wherever I feel like. Like, I feel like, oh, this is a good spot to put a fast travel point because I'm going to be going to that location. Cool. I can build a tent here and build this nice little camp for me to go into. What's cool too is the multiplayer. If you are playing solo, you can request help for any monster that you're fighting. And it even comes up on the screen. You can press, if you attack a monster out in the world, you can just press down the D-pad and it'll send out a request for help, which means players just hop right in, and it's a hop in, hop out type of thing for that type of co-op, where they'll hop in, help you kill the monster, and then it kicks them out as soon as it's done, right? They get the materials as well as you do, and they can help you fight. If you're playing with your friends, you stay in there together, right? You go in and out of maps together and everything like that, but you can have that option to go in and just, hey, I need some help with this monster, or maybe I don't want to fight it solo because it does take a little time to fight him solo. So maybe I want some random people to come in and help me just kill this real quick because I need the materials, right? And that makes it a lot easier. That's a nice feature. Monster Hunter doesn't quite have something like that, but they do have like where people can come help you. But I don't think they have like a drop in, drop out on monster hunting. That's like when you're out in the world.
That's what the flares are for. You can send up a flare and SOS when you're out in the world. People can come in.
In World. I don't think in Rise you can. Rise doesn't have the flares. At least I don't remember.
I can't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah. I don't remember the flares in Rise. So Rise changed things up a lot from World, right? I think World's a better one than Rise, but there was a lot of stuff in Rise I liked that they did that I wish World had, like the monster riding and stuff like that. But plus, Rise is a much smaller experience than World is. World's a huge game. I wish Capcom would make a World 2 because that one's probably my favorite Monster Hunter. I think that's the same for everybody. But it's nice to see someone come out with a Monster Hunter type game and do a pretty good job of it, right? I don't want just Capcom to make the Monster Hunter games. It's kind of nice to have some other developer making Monster Hunter-ish games that can compete with what Capcom's doing, right? Now you got to remember, Capcom's an established franchise that's been around for freaking ever. So they've been able to hone and refine things. And I think Omega Force will, if they continue on with Wild Hearts, they'll be able to do that as time progresses with new iterations of the game. They'll be able to hone and make things better. Not saying that it's a bad game by any means. It's just not to the level that Monster Hunter is, but it still has some new ideas that it brought forth that I think Monster Hunter could learn from, and it has some things that Monster Hunter has that I wish it had. One thing I do like is that you don't have to sharpen your weapon in this game. Well, if you played Monster Hunter, you know how sometimes, that's a nice little added like RPG mechanic to Monster Hunter, but at the same time, it is kind of annoying that you have to like micromanage your sharpening of your weapon, or in this case, the sharpening of your hammer for Patrick. Like a hammer.
My hammer was getting a little blunt. I need to sharpen it,
Right.
Looked a little flat on one end.
Yeah, I need to get it all nice and pointy. But yeah, this game it does have some technical issues, some performance issues, and some like graphical issues that hopefully they'll get patched out. Graphic wise, it doesn't look as good as even Monster Hunter World, I don't think, or Monster Hunter Rise. Except for some parts. Like there are some times in the game, it's really strange. Like this game has some imagery that looks really nice, and then there's other parts that do not. So it's very mix and match. But it's not necessarily all about the graphics, at least for me. The gameplay's got to be there too, and I think the gameplay is a lot of fun. So I find this game a lot of fun to play. But again, it depends on you as an individual. Are you a big Monster Hunter fan? And if so, I think we all like Monster Hunter, but how do you play it normally? Do you play it co-op? Then you'll enjoy this more co-op. Do you play it solo? Then you'll enjoy both, right? Co-op and solo. So just depends. What do you think, Shane?
I think I surprisingly like it a little bit more than Pat in most ways. I like it. My favorite thing about it is I like Monster Hunter. I do. But I like that it took out some of the annoying things that I don't like about Monster Hunter, like sharpening your weapon. That's stupid. Don't like it. Don't want to do it. I felt fighting my way around the map and getting around the map was kind of funner, in my opinion, in this, because you can set up zip lines to go from A to B, and you get quite a distance on them too. So as you're playing, you don't have to set a camp out here, but you do want to zip line because there is some monsters in that area that you want to hit. So you can traversal with that is really fun. The climbing mechanic for the mountains and stuff like that, the worst part. But as you progress in the game, you can build contraptions to get you straight up there. You can build a fan to blow your butt right up to the top of the mountain, or the zip lines, like I was pointing out, or the little spring boxes if it's a short jump. I like those things. The traversal in this thing, I really enjoyed. I think it's and Pat's right. That's the perfect description. Monster Hunter meets Fortnite. Monster Night. But the game is fun co-op. Single player is fine. No problems with the single player as the game itself, but it's really meant to be played cooperatively. It's got bring my friends all over it. Some of us got to play a crap ton ahead before the others, so he was able to teach us several things, which was nice, Nick. So, because the game does not do a good job at teaching you things. And when you're battling certain monsters, that's when you learn new build abilities in the middle of those fights. And it's like, I had several of them, no problem. It just popped up right there. Pat's just running around, give it to me, you son of a, he was just trying to get this new move, but it took forever to pop up for him. I don't like the way they did that in the middle of the boss fights. I think that's a wrong way to go about it. But I didn't hate it because it didn't affect me near as much as it did Pat. But as long as I don't get screwed, I'm good. The co-op is the best part of the game, though. It really is, just like most of these game types. And I think I would like to see them fix some of the graphical issues. But Nick is right. It's like the character models look really good, and then you throw it against an ugly backdrop, and then a second later your character model kind of looks like crap with the backdrop. And then it's Nick's right. It's just, I don't know, some with those graphics just don't like work well sometimes. But it's not terrible, but it is definitely Switch looking most of the time. So, but I enjoy the game. I played as a swordsman just, because I like quickness and all that. I was surprised to see Pat get off his hammer. That was kind of odd. But I like the game overall. It's very simple. It's Monster Hunter for those of us who aren't good at Monster Hunter. So that's a win-win right there, because it's not as tedious as Monster Hunter is in most ways. But you still got a lot of multi fights to the same monsters, so you can get all the materials, so you can build all the different equipment, and you can build your fire equipment and wind and water, the whole Captain Planet genre of weapons and armor and that thing. But I enjoy the game. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I do, because I just thought it was going to be just a turd clone of Monster Hunter, and it's not. It's definitely a clone, but it's not a bad clone. So more of these games are just fine with me. And one thing I got to point out is the monsters have familiarities to them. Everything looks like something it's just been like mutated. I mean, there's a beaver, there's a chicken, there's an ape,
it's a
bear,
kung fu chicken.
A kung fu chicken, excuse me.
Kung fu chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like the monsters in it because of that. There's similarities to World War creatures. So I like that. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, I definitely play some more.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to play. It's our go-to co-op game right now. Yeah, and they just have weird names for everything, right? The things you build are called karakuris, or I don't know how you're pronounce. I'm probably butchering the crap out of it. And all the monsters are called kimonos, and I'm like, just weird names for everything. But I think it works pretty good outside of the weird errors. I mean, the only error we've encountered really is like false errors, right? I mean, the game throws a network error, and I'm like, oh my god, my party just ended, and it didn't. It's just you pop in, I'm like, network error 5 means nothing. Okay, just ignore it, But it's a good game. I like it co-op. I'm not gonna play any of this solo because I do think the monster fights are long, which Monster Hunter was that same way, and Monster Hunter Rise was. It's just I'm not that patient for the long run, because at times I'm like, I just need a few seconds to catch myself, and when you're playing solo, you don't get that unless you're companion. You have these little companion robot things, gets its attention for like 5 seconds. But when I was playing solo, that thing couldn't seem to pull aggro to save its life, and I'm just constantly getting railroaded by the monster because he won't get off of me. But when you're hunting in a party, you can steal focus from the other party members to give them a few minutes to get up and get a pot or get a drink or whatever, so they can get away from the monster. But when you're playing solo, you don't get a whole lot of that. The monsters are just on you 24/7 until you kill them, But this is the same mechanics as Monster Hunter, right? You fight the monster gets beat down, runs away a little, and you follow it, and you beat it up again, and then it gets a little bit weaker, and it runs away. And so, I mean, that's Monster Hunter mechanics right there. But they say that mimicry is a form of flattery, right? And I mean, but this game added its own flair. I do agree with you guys. The graphics are kind of weird, which kind of surprised me because it's a next-gen console only. It's only on PC, PS5, and the X and S. And I mean, so that kind of is weird that it's a next gen thing. But I often were looking at the graphics going, man, this looks like faded and blurry. And I'm like, and then at other times, like I said, when the cutscenes all look great, it's like they did AAA rendering on those, but everything else kind of looks like they just, I don't know. And I found the controls very jerky. It took me a while to get used to them. I'm used to, in like Monster Hunter, I'm used to just like very tight controls, because that's what you have to. You have to get out of the way of the monsters. The monsters are going to, get this, and don't be stuck in an attack animation when that monster's going to rear up. In this one, it's like, it seemed like I was having trouble moving and getting positioned sometimes. But I got used to it after a while. It became second nature after a while. So I don't know what else to say besides it's Monster Hunter. It just got building. and different monsters and different weapons, but the same weapons, right? I think, even in Monster Hunter, you had the quick sword, you had the heavy two-hander sword, you had the heavy hammer, you had a gun, you had guns in Monster Hunter in one of them. You had the little the rapid fire gun. I can't remember which one that one was. And stuff like that. But the weapons are similar, but just different enough, I should say. And this one's got a lot more like, I would say it probably doesn't have as many combos as Monster Hunter does with the weapons. Like, I don't know about your guys' weapons, but I have you have a couple of like double taps of your heavy and your light, and then like some trick shots where you power it up and do different things. But there's not like umpteen different combos like Monster Hunter has, which is, to me, is nice because it's I don't have to memorize. That's why I stuck with the hammer for so long in Monster Hunter, because I'm like, I learned it. I learned its dozens of moves. I don't want to go through this again with another weapon,
Yeah, Monster Hunter definitely has a lot of combos when it comes to their weapons. And you're right, this game doesn't have as many, right? It's trimmed down. It seems like they've trimmed down a lot of different parts that make Monster Hunter, for some people, right? I mean, because Monster Hunter, if you're going into Monster Hunter, it is kind of like an MMO. It's a very time investment type of game, especially for Monster Hunter. It's a time investment on learning the mechanics and learning how to use the weapon and how to survive out there, right? It's a very lot of information that you need to know. This game kind of trims that down. You still got that learning curve, but it's not as high as Monster Hunter is as far as the learning curve goes. And there's not as many weapons either. I think there's a total of 7 weapons. Yeah, I think there's 3.
Well, there's some locked weapons.
Yeah, there's 3
locked
that are
ones you
hidden.
can't
I
get
think
to.
there's 4 that you can choose from the beginning, or maybe there's 5 that you can choose from the beginning.
No, I'm pretty sure there's probably closer to 10.
Well, then you got the regular sword, you got the big sword, you got the hammer, you got the parasol, and you got the bow. So that's 5. And then there's 3 hidden. So there's 8 altogether. 8 weapons.
Either way, that's what I like about the game. It is easier to pick up and play than Monster Hunter. I don't want to sit and manage too much in a game. That's one thing I do get bothered by a lot of games where there's so much management. Like, well, now I got to have 50, dragon testicles so I can build this gear here or whatever. I want that trimmed down where I got to do some of the work, but I'm not spending all my time hunting down the little things and, skinning squirrels just to, make a new armor set. I want to be able to flow a little faster into the game and the story and whatnot. And this does a much better job at that, in my opinion. But I think Monster Hunter still, as an overall game, is a better game. But I have no problems with this one, really. So I'm happy this is going to be our routine game till we get another good, solid cooperative game.
Yeah, I've got no qualms about it. I mean, it's just not something I want to play solo, but I'm glad that I've got friends to play with. But yeah, I mean, they take away from the weapon complexity, but then they add the curry complexity by having to remember, like, I need 6 of these blocks to build the wall to block the charges. I need 3 of these to build the whack-a-mole thing. I need like 6 of these to build that and this and that. So there are some types of remembrance, but those are the same no matter what class you pick. So that's kind of nice that always stays the same. And it's not too bad. I don't have a problem with the building at all. The building kind of makes a unique play style that Monster Hunter doesn't have, right? Because I find myself playing the bow character. Once I played the bow character, I find myself building walls all the time and hiding behind them so that monsters throw rocks at the wall. And I'm like, ping, 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 ping. And I duck back there when they look at me, and things like that. So I find that you have different tactics. And I always see Shane and Nick in there just dropping the little freaking whack-a-mole things and bombs and all kinds of weird crap. And I'm like, all right, explosions everywhere. So the traversal mechanics in this one are interesting. When you're just running and trying to climb walls, that sucks. Monster Hunter does that better. So this game but it gives you a lot more traversal options. Like you said, I like to build anywhere you want. So if I decide that I want to build a northern camp, most northern tip, and then one dead center, so I have just like divide the island in half, I can do that. Whereas Monster Hunter kind of locks you into preset camp areas. So, so far, so good.
And I think in this game too, the because of the building mechanics and stuff, it makes the world that you go into feel more lived in than Monster Hunter worlds, like the continents you go in and attack monsters in. It almost feels like kind of preset, like already built landscapes that you're just kind of in. Where this one, because when you build stuff, you can build stuff, but people can also your avatar shows up sometimes in other people's camps, and then you can do a hunt for them in their own so you go to their own world and you can see all the camps that they have up and everything, and you can build stuff in there, and when they go back to their world, they'll see the stuff that you built, right? Various things you built, blocks or radar dishes or whatever you built in there, which is cool because you can go back and be like, I didn't build that, where the hell did this come from? It's neat to see that. And it feels like a more lived in world, where Monster Hunter just seems like a preset landscape that you go into. And because it's always, every time you go there, it's always just like refreshed, right? Everything's back to where it was and you go through it again. Where this one, it feels like everything is back to where it was, things that get knocked down, trees and stuff. But the things that can be built in the world are new. And they're like either there still, or someone came in and built something somewhere. And now you got like some wind tunnels that you didn't build that are sitting up on some side of this cliff somewhere, or radar dishes in places that you didn't build them, and various things like that. So that just,
and your friends can build in your world too. That's cool.
Yeah. It's a really cool mechanic.
And more games need to do that. When you're playing cooperative in a world like this, what person A does should carry over to person B's land. It doesn't make sense not to. And yeah, it makes it feel more persistent and lived in. And I remember when, Pat built that over there, or Nick, showed us how to build the fan thing and blah, blah, blah. That's what makes a great co-op game. That's what makes a game like this, where I can go in and play my single player just because I know Nick put some cool stuff I don't have unlocked yet. So
one of the things I think might be problematic is that when you're playing with the host, though, your story doesn't progress, I'm pretty sure, right? Have you gotten into your game, Shane, to see if your story progressed, if you're back where you left off?
No, my story progressed.
Oh, so you're with the same place I'm at? Oh, okay. Yep. Well, that's good. I didn't realize that would happen then. That's kind of nice.
Yep. Yeah, I was kind of concerned about it too. And but no, I popped up and there I was, had all those missions completed and story was where I was. So I'm good to go, baby.
There you go. So we have party progression. That's kind of nice because Shane and I, they all joined my game, and because Nick was already way too far out. And
he beat it twice.
Yeah. and I was the one lacking behind because I didn't want to play by myself. So we just joined my game, and that's what I wondered. I was like, I wonder if Shane's game will progress. And it sounds like it did, which is cool.
All right. Before we go, quick question. At the very beginning of the game, you are given an option. You are to sneak up to this kimono. I hope you both remember it. You sneak up and you can pet it, or you can turn a new one. Nick remembers by the look on his face. Pat, you don't remember this? It's at the very beginning of the game.
It's like the deer that you're following at the very beginning.
Yeah, I'd probably pet it then. Oh, I'd probably pet it.
What'd you do, Nick?
I pet it. Yeah.
I gutted that thing like a pig.
I figured Grandpa would.
All right. But it seems like we all overall enjoy this game. Pat, not as much, which was kind of a surprise. But, to each his own, and not everybody loves everything. Do you guys have anything else? All right. Before we go, make sure you like, share, hit those notifications, hit that subscribe button. Give us some feedback. What do you think? Have you played this? What's your thought comparison between this and the Monster Hunter franchise? Have you played this? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree? What's your favorite part? What's your worst part? Let us know your thoughts, opinions, feelings, all that good stuff. Just be respectful. But before we go, one more thing. Hit the subscription. I know I said it once, but you got to do it because you missed President's Day and you got to hit that now. So anyways, until next time, see ya.